Hey everyone, I'm Tzachi from Flycode and I'm really excited to host Gabi. Hey Gabi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Great, so let's jump in. You are coming from a fintech background. In the last few years, you worked for a crypto app, you worked for a bank with a spin-off app, you worked at Wix Payment. Tell me, how did you start in fintech and payments?
Oh, that's actually an interesting story. I'm working in the high-tech industry for a long time. I was working for a long time. And about 8 years ago, when I decided that I don't want to stay with my startup anymore because it was going nowhere at that time, I was sitting at home and I didn't know really what to do. I was exploring all kinds of areas, and then one day I've decided that I want to see how banks are making money. So I Googled it, and it was kind of going down the rabbit hole. I kept searching about it and reading about it because suddenly money was super interesting, and moving money from one place to another was super interesting. And there wasn't a lot of, that was almost a decade ago. There wasn't a lot of information at that time, but there was a blockchain and crypto hype at that time. So I decided to dive into it, and this is how I started. I started writing in LinkedIn, and someone saw what I wrote and he engaged with me, and I was leading this crypto company for about a year. And this is how I started my romance with the payments world.
That's great. Cool. So let's kind of dive in. Maybe let's start with Wix, kind of the last experience. So you are joining Wix. Wix is in kind of a hyper growth state, and you are coming. How the fintech or payment operation looks like in Wix when you are coming in?
Okay, so I came to Wix about, I think about 1 year before the Corona has, fade out. So I really came to Wix when it was the hype, right? Everyone were at home in closures and trying to make some money. So Wix was at its best at that time when, in the e-com area. At that time, there was Wix is built from different companies, and I joined the payments company, the amazing payments company, I should say. I think there are amazing people over there. Wix is basically split into two, or the company is split into two. There is Wix Payments, which is a Wix brand, and Wix is pushing you as a merchant to use this brand, and justly, of course. And there is the rest of the world, because Wix Payment is operating only in 14 countries. Wix is not a financial company, so we are getting help from payment providers like Stripe and Adyen and PayPal as well. But I came to manage everything that is not Wix Payments. So basically, Wix Payment is operating in 14 countries, but Wix is serving 230 something territories. So you need to take care of those territories. So what I came to do is to build a platform where all providers are joining that platform. We are giving them the API. The heavy lifting is on their side. They are joining that platform. And then as a merchant, with no code integration, you just build your website, you put your credentials from your provider, and that's it. And you can start selling. So I came at, let's say, early days of that platform. Okay, it was already existing with a team, with a non-formed team, but it was a big challenge to form that team and to kind of make it a team. Okay, there were people there, good people working there, but it was kind of a challenge to form them together, create all the processes, the vision, and everything. So it was interesting time.
When you come in, what are the business goals for this specific company? You come in, you look at payments, you look at about serving those merchants with payments. What are the kind of the two key challenges that you have immediately from the business point of view?
I think that the first challenge and the main challenge is, so if you want to meet Wix's vision, so Wix's vision is that, we want to serve everyone everywhere. If you have an idea for an e-com website in Congo, or you have it in South Africa, or you have it in Japan, or in the US, we want, or Wix wants, I've already left Wix, but it's still a part of me, I guess. So Wix wants to allow you to actually get some processing from your local processor. Okay, it's cheaper, it's faster, it has better approval rates, etc. So the first challenge was to understand: are we serving the right countries, Do we have gaps in certain countries? What are those gaps? I had to map 240 territories, 230 territories. That was the biggest challenge. And there's a lot of data. There's a lot of requests. There were a lot of requests coming in from management, from users, from merchants, from enterprises, from our partners. There was a lot of mess when I came. And that was the first challenge, I think. Later on, we had other challenges, like we have an interesting platform. What are we doing with it? Are we connecting only providers, payment service providers, or we're doing something more interesting with that? Are we taking it out of Wix, or we're leaving it within Wix because we have a no-code gateway, But those were challenges that I faced down the road. At the beginning, it was just to clear the fog, right? Because there was PayPal in 200 countries. So you can say, yeah, we are serving 200 countries, but there are territories, there are countries that are not using PayPal at all. So no, it's there, but no one is using it. Zero transactions. You had to clear the fog to understand your priorities.
Give me an example of the first challenge. What country was challenging at the beginning? What kind of process did you did locally with the payment providers? How it actually worked?
So I think one of the interesting countries that was challenging was Japan, for example, was very challenging. In Japan, we had a few processors already connected, and we had Stripe. Stripe was actually taking the majority of the payment volume. But they were missing some alternative payments. Japan is very, very different from other countries. They like their local providers. They like to get their support in the same language. They're very, very sensitive to that. So we had a couple of alternative payments that were missing there, and we had to put them in it as a top priority. Japan is a very important country. Okay. So we had to put it in priority, and that was a challenge. That's a challenge. You have to work with your partners. Sometimes you have to work directly with the local PSPs that are offering those APMs. You have to do it with the translation, with the gap of time. There were a couple of challenges there.
Is it a question of cost, of coverage, or authorization eventually?
I think it's a question of coverage. Like, when you're building such a platform, the heavy lifting is on the provider. You just hand them over the API if you chose them. If I decided that this payment provider should be on the platform because it's in my convenience, right? It's important to say that it's not an open platform. It is a platform that meets the requirements of Wix's users, right? So I think it's mainly a matter of coverage. We are a part of that integration process at the beginning, but the heavy lifting is on the payment provider, and you get no risk. We don't touch the money, obviously, right? The merchant or the Wix user just gets into the platform, he puts his username and password after he did his own KYB at that processor, and he's got approvals, and it's a no-code platform. You just put your credentials and that's it. And we cut a certain BPS of each deal. So it's not a matter of risk. It's not a matter of authorizing transactions. Yes, we were looking at the levels of authorization. This was another challenge, right?
Tell me about the authorization challenge.
Because I can see a lot as the one who is sitting on the actual pipe of transactions. I can see a lot between providers of the same territory. I can see how many transactions they are actually approving. I can see the level of their erroring messages. We had a huge project around the erroring messages that we get from them so we can improve it. We always wanted to improve. The thing at Wix is that, I guess in a lot of companies, but you just want to make sure that your users have the best, they are using the best platform. Using the best platform in e-com, for us as payment people, is about making sure that they have a smooth checkout and smooth authorization process as much as we can, right? Because we're not a part of that process, but we can explain to the merchant what is doing wrong to an extent.
What really surprised you in this process? You are working now globally with different payment providers. Each payment provider is a different animal. They behave different, they think different, they move different, they have different process. What really surprised you in this process?
I don't know if I had surprises. I can say that I'm always surprised and always will probably be surprised from the fact that, the sale process of e-com people, of e-com merchants is extremely, they look at every point of it, right? How they convert, how they could buyers to get into the checkout flow. But it always surprised me how they are not savvy enough in payments to understand what's happening after their buyers hit the pay button. It still surprises me.
What does it mean?
It means that there's a lot of deals, a lot of transactions that are failing, and they can save them. They can save them with simple things. I think whoever listens to this podcast is probably a payment people. So for us, it's really obvious, put the zip code in the US and you get better transactions. Okay. You get better authorization. For merchants, and it's good and bad, but merchants, they want to sell. They have a product. They are in love with their product. They think it's the best product. They better should. And they don't, they're not into the payments. The payments, it's like something that is frightening them.
It's a black box.
And it's a black box. And I said it's good because it's good for us, right? It's our job security in a way. But that always surprised me, the gaps that I saw. And I still see, because I'm advising companies today, I still see that there are gaps in the understanding of the last mile.
Tell us about the gaps. You started saying, tell us for merchants, for payment people, even things that sounds obvious to you, tell us. What do you see? What are the main gaps?
So I think that merchants are we have today amazing companies, right? Like you take Stripe and it's a state-of-the-art, Nuvei, state-of-the-art, Airwallex, Checkout.com, whatever. They are connected to those companies, okay? And they are not utilizing, and I know those companies are doing their best, convince them to utilize that, but they're not utilizing everything, okay? They're not utilizing even the most basic, sometimes the most basic features that Stripe is offering them, okay? And transactions are failing. So they're just, in low volumes, it's okay, I'm just starting. This week I spoke with a startup owner, an amazing startup. And I asked him about that point. We were talking about something else. He was thinking about a different area of payments and finance, but I asked him about that, and he said, "Yeah, I know there are some transactions that are failing." I said, "But you're the CEO. Do you know why they're failing?" "No, I have no idea." So that is quite surprising. Well, actually, surprising and not surprising, but there's a lot to do there, and the gap can be can get smaller for sure.
I would argue that it's our responsibility. Like we at FlyCode, we partner with most and more of the payment providers that you mentioned. And I think one of the challenges is how, as an industry, as FinTech, payment provider across the board, how we are helping those merchants, those customers, it can be e-commerce or SaaS, to utilize the best tools, the best practices in payment, which is a combination between expertise and technology. And I don't think we are doing enough there. And we have a business
it's good
because
for you, right?
We have a business because of it. But I want to touch on this point. Like we started to speak about some of the failures and what you are seeing. Is there areas that you can identify that are really low-hanging fruit for the merchant to optimize? Like look at this. Like I'm a founder or I'm e-commerce founder. Where should I start looking?
I think, the recurrent payments is something that is really, really, getting bigger and bigger because it's something that promise you. So I think that there's a lot to do in the recurrent payments area. Okay, there's a lot to improve. I think that merchants are not looking at that area deep enough to understand why they have failures after 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, whatever. And there are tools today to recover those failed payments. And also, I just want to refer to what you said, that we are not doing enough. So I mentioned top-notch companies, right? Payment companies. But we all know that there are companies that are not as good as those companies. And a lot of money goes through those companies. And this is a huge gap. We can see that, we can hear with the local providers is the difference. I'm not saying bad things about the local providers. They're good, but the gap between the local providers and what we see in those providers that I've mentioned is quite big.
Let's move a bit to speak about the industry and where we are now. We see a lot of kind of changes. I think like looking at fintech in the last 10, 15 years, right? You see a race like the first, like, let's bring payment provider, then let's optimize. Let's have a smooth checkout experience. Let's add more payment options. Let's optimize for cost. And now let's continue this journey. When you're looking today, like on the recent changes in fintech and payment, what are the areas to kind of look at? What are the most interesting stuff for you?
Not only e-com, right? Like everything.
Everything.
Okay. Wow, that is a very wide question.
I can help you narrow it. Fintech and technology specific. Yeah. Technology enabled fintech, like the next 3, 5, 6 years, where we are going, like from a fintech payment point of view. Where is the next technology jump or the opportunities?
So, I've been dealing with that recently because I was thinking about the future payment methods, payment means, and I want to split it into 4. Okay, so and then I'm going to talk about one of them or 2 of them mainly. Okay, so the first one is the way we pay today, right? We pay with an object. We either pay, most of us, we pay with our phone, which is an object, obviously, and we pay with our card, right? Some still pay with their cards. It's non-payment experts, I guess. But so this is an object, okay? The opposite of an object is our biometrics, right? An object is not a part of us, okay? Biometrics is a part of us, like, you can see initiatives like Amazon has in the US. They're paying with their palm of their hand. You can see initiatives in China. They're paying with their scanning their eyes and stuff like that. This is a part of us. And then this is the second one, right? Then there is a combination of both. So those are the wearables, right? You can wear a watch and you can pay with your watch. You can wear a ring and pay with your ring, or a wrist, or whatever. And then there's the fourth one, which is what we used to call, and I'm going to switch the name now, but we used to call it machine to machine, right? I don't know if you remember, but like 10 years ago, there was a big promise, right? Yeah, you're going to take your cheese or your milk out of the refrigerator, and the refrigerator will know you didn't get it back, so he will order it for you. And this it never really materialized, right? We know our refrigerator doesn't really order food directly from the supermarket, but we can see today that things are moving fast. So first of all, in the area of biometrics, I think that in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, for sure, we will see great changes because it's simple to pay this way. It is simple to pay this way, and simplicity is one of the major things. Of course, trust is on top of simplicity, but if you will combine the trust and simplicity, I believe that biometric payments will take quite a good percentage of the total physical payments. But I want to speak about the M2M, the machine to machine. I want to call it, today we have the AI is penetrating our lives. I think that everyone in the last 6 months already talks about it, does some experiment about it. I also built some small agents alone, and I'm nothing but a coder, right? I have no idea how to deal with code. So I think that the world is going to experience a difference. It's not a machine to machine, it's an agent to agent. Because if I build, for example, I built an agent that scans the stock market for me, right? But at the beginning, I faced a problem where in order to scratch or to grab all the data, he needs to go through a paywall, right? Because it's a closed site. So I wanted to give that agent my card, right? Pay for it every day. You're scanning this website.
Just buy it.
Twice a day. Yeah, just buy it and just pay the $1, whatever. So it's not possible today. There are companies that are starting to, startup companies that are penetrating this area. And this is like, in my mind, it's like a boom. It's like crazy, you know. It's a whole new area. I just gave you an example, you know, of this, but think about, I'll give you another example. So I read newspapers from all the world, right? I don't read the entire newspaper. I want this reporter and this reporter and this reporter. They're all behind paywalls, all right? I want to create my own newspaper, and I want to pay them for that because, you know, otherwise then no one works for free. And I want to create an agent for myself, and I want this agent to pay those reporters, right? So this is a whole new world in payments, and I believe that, you know, everything is it's recorded, so it's I don't want to predict anything.
No, go for it.
Things are moving so fast. So I'm going to say 5 years, but with an asterisk. I know it's going to happen before. Agents are going to pay agents. They're going to identify them. They are going to negotiate on the price. They are going to authorize each other's payments. They are going to, I don't know what's going to happen with a lot of things there of fraud and chargebacks and stuff like that, but it's going to be super, super interesting.
Help me think about the framework of this kind of evolution in payment. Let's imagine for a second that we are trying together to kind of outline for a second what is the framework of this agent in payment or a multi-agent in payment that actually go and do those actions alone, right? So you started to speak about the trust and the compliance side, right? The ability of the agent to identify, maybe even like you spoke about the biometric. So today with my phone, it's actually connected to a very kind of secured way in Apple to enable, right? It's a mix between the device and my biometric, whatever it will be in the device. But from a technology point of view, let's say in the context of e-commerce or SaaS or the ability to buy, what are the things that I need to kind of start thinking about?
Wow, it's a very...
We're trying to build the future of FinTech together.
It's a tough question.
Yeah.
It's a tough question. I'll tell you why. I think that it is almost like asking this question at the beginning of, let's say, in 1996 or 1997, when we were moving from the physical world to the online world, okay? I believe that if you would ask even a payment expert back then, what does it mean to pay online? He would never even start to understand the technology we have today. Maybe he would imagine the building blocks, but the way we think today is we are thinking about, you know, the e-commerce world is not ready for agent-to-agent payment, for a computer to a computer, right? We are ready. We are doing it really well. Billions and billions of dollars every year are being paid from a human person to a machine, all right, to a checkout or whatever, right, to a site checkout. But it is going to change, and I think for everyone who is listening to this, it's super, super interesting to look into that area. There's a lot to do. I believe that our lives in 5 years from now will be different in the way that we purchase things. Even, you know, not only creating my own newspaper, right? That's nice, or creating my own stock tracker or whatever. I think that even in words of ordering your vacation in a way, things that don't really need, like, I believe that I will need to see the Airbnb apartment, right, or house that the AI that my agent has suggested me, right? But if it is a flight, I don't need to see it. I don't need to see. I just want to give my agent my card and tell him, just scan the web all the time. This is the flight I want. At that day, I'm flexible at those hours. Whenever, just book it. I don't need to see it.
Yeah. When I look at the agents today, even like the AI that we are working, of course, on a personal or a business level, the level of knowledge that they have about our preference is just increasing over time, right?
Yeah.
I can honestly say today with the agents, and the AI that I'm working, because it's actually my co-pilot at work, and it can be my co-pilot for my family or life, my personal life.
Yeah.
They know me so well, my preference, the way I'm thinking about stuff, the way I compare stuff, the way I prefer it over time, if they actually have the access. The reason that I'm saying it, let's look at it for a second from a customer point of view, from a consumer, what we would like to have there. So I think the experience that you are mentioning, like the ability to know me well, to know my preference, you're saying card, they have the ability to authorize payment in my behalf with a certain limitation, or yes or no, I don't know. This is the interesting stuff. But as a consumer, right, how do you think about it as a consumer, like the ability to enable this kind of agents to buy, to have a preference for me, maybe to suggest, to say, listen, those are the top 3 options. What's important? I know that what's important for you is X or Y. Tell me, like, should I book?
I believe we shouldn't examine it from our eyes. I believe that we should examine it from the eyes of our kids that are going to get their first payment cards or whatever in a few years from now, and the way that they would do business or they would do their purchasing habits in the future. We are already... It's always a matter of how simple it will be for them and how trustable it will be. I'm not getting scared, when I write sometimes in the GPT, I write to him like, what do you know about me? It doesn't scare me. I know.
Learn more.
And yeah, it's like, you missed this point. It doesn't scare me. I in a way, whether I trust it or not, where my profile is, I don't think I have a choice. I don't think I have a choice today. I think that it's like, when I was at Beat.
Just to say, Beat is like a banking app, peer-to-peer, to move money across.
Yeah, it's like, I call it the Israeli Venmo.
Venmo, yeah, exactly.
So, and we introduced the tap to pay. We were the first one to introduce tap to pay in Israel. So everyone said, it's not going to work. People are not going to do that. And not even today. Today, it's like 5 years later. But I think 3 or 2 years ago, already like 70 or 80% were using tap to pay because it's easy. It's easy to use. You don't need your wallet anymore. I don't have my wallet on me. I think for 6 or 7 years, I don't have a wallet. But when I was telling that to people 6 or 7 years ago, no, I don't have a wallet, they said, you're very strange. But today, I don't think people are going with a wallet. Like, maybe they are, but people got used to tap and pay. People that use... By the way, even for me, that I was introducing tap to pay as a part of Beat, even for me, as a backup, you just mentioned that word, so a funny story. As a backup, I used to go with my card in the back of the phone, all right? I don't do that anymore for 2 years now. But at the beginning, of the first year, I used to go with as a backup. So I think it's a matter of how our kids and, will treat this technology. If they find it trustable, and I believe they will use it.
Yeah, I think some of the challenges that we had, like we needed to know how to deal with money in a personal level or in company level, how to manage it, the cost, the cash flow, the prediction, the saving, the kind of investment side of it. I think most of it will probably become obsolete. Like as long as it can understand my preference, I don't need to do it anymore. And it's something that the Excel and the ability to manage it, even today, is still powerful. But that's kind of...
That's another point, by the way. I've published a post about the future means of payments and in LinkedIn, and someone answered me that we will always need our phones because we need a place to manage our finance, our expenses and everything. I think that things will be consolidated. Even today, you don't see your entire finance status, right? You have your bank account, you have your pension at another place. Maybe your wife has another, or your business has another bank account. It's a whole mess, right? Still, it's crazy, but it's still a whole mess. I believe that in 5 years from now, and you can already see the signs for that, we will have a consolidated dashboard that will have a very nice AI on top of it, and will tell you, don't leave those $1,000 in your current account. Just invest them. I will do that for you.
Yeah. It's I'm the cash flow guys in our company, and it's just over time you kind of master it, but hopefully we can let go.
Yeah, you can just tell your agent to do it. It's they will work for you.
So we started to speak about your journey with banks and the ability to find gaps like money gaps and the industry gaps in banks. Let's maybe finish with banks as well. When I'm looking at it, it's still kind of the fundamental structure in kind of payment as an institutional money. And we see a shift in crypto. We see a shift in different kind of alternate finance. Like when I'm saying banks because it's helpful for me to imagine what they are doing and imagine very limited imagination about what they will not do. So maybe let's finish with this point. Like when you look at bank, what are still opportunities in kind of...
Wow, that's a great question. And I have a very solid answer for that. I was working at a bank for 2 years. It was a super interesting experience. I wanted to work for that bank because I said, I'm in the payments business. I think that it's a point that you have to do, it's a stop that you have to stop there for a second and see how the banks are operating from the inside. And there were amazing people in the bank, and the banks are doing what they need to do. They are saving our money. They are keeping our money. We trust the banks. Whoever tells you that doesn't trust the bank, just ask them, so where your money is. It's not at home under the sofa, for sure. It's in the bank. So if it's in the bank, then you trust the bank. But I can tell you that my vision, it's not a vision. It's already happening, and I think it's going to happen even more in the next few years. You can see the neobanks coming. You can name just a few of them that are really, really amazing, like Chime in the US and others. I think that banks are going to keep their historical place. They will keep our money. They are the pipes, okay? They are the pipes that know how to transfer money from one place to another, how to keep it safe. They are heavily regulated. I think that banks, whether they like it or not, they do not know how to do B2C. They are heavily into B2B. I think that companies like Apple and Google are much more successful, and therefore I believe that in the future we will see more neobanks coming into the kind of stepping into the front through the front door and gaining more popularity around the world. I will tell you a story if we have time. When I was a little kid, my father used to take me to work, and we used to go to the bank at the end of every day. And I was looking at my father with all this money in his hand, handling over it to the teller. And for me as a kid, I was watching that and said, oh, my father trusts those people, And in my head, there was kind of a relation between the bank logo and between trust, right? This is fundamental in money, that you have trust in the institution. I believe that we just need to look at the statistics. Banks are closing their physical branches, right? They're actually closing them. So this relation that I had, by the way, guess where I had my first bank account? In the same brand, right? So I think this relation is being detached, and other players are coming in. Those players are, Revolut is much better than.
God, it's amazing. And in Brazil, you see it. So
of course,
people hate banks. People really hate banks.
I think it's their problem. I don't think it's the bank's problem, to be honest. I think it's people's problem. They like to bitch about those banks, but I think they can get much clever dealing with the banks, dealing with their own financial status and accounts, etc. But they don't. But on the other hand, they don't need to because the neobanks are going to do it for them. They will close that gap.
Yeah. I don't think my kids will have probably a high street bank account in the future anymore. The experience is just very, very different. The technology is different. The capabilities, the speed is just not, it doesn't pan out. Great. Gabi, any final notes before we finish?
No, I enjoyed it very much.
Me too, man. It was great to host you. And thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks.